Ivana. I'm a mindset empowerment coach. I have a background in sociology. That's why I love looking at societal structures and what they do to us as an individual and how we place our identities in those societal structures that we actually need. And my forever favorite topic is to work on mindset. And I love to empower people to letting go of fear of people's opinions, because it is like a silent pandemic that we are all experiencing, literally everyone on different levels. But there is often the case that before we pick our clothes in the cupboard in the morning, that's first that comes to our mind is like, oh, how awesome I'm going to look today. But instead it's like, oh, what my coworkers are going to think if I put that on. And it's just, right? So this is just one example. But it's just such a thing that we inherited, that we are considering as normal, that we are not changing, and therefore it's like a very silent pattern. It's very, nobody speaks about it really, because we're ashamed or we don't know that the better exists. And it's one of the most limiting fears we are having, because it will forever and ever keep us from stepping into our full potential and being. And
absolutely,
this is what I'm dedicated my mission to change that.
I love that. And that's why I'm so excited to hear your insights on today's topic, because when you first mentioned it to me, immediately so many thoughts came into my mind and so many questions that I know people will have on how to overcome the fear of people's opinions. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your insights on this, and particularly on how we can overcome it, because it seems to be such a common thing that a lot of people struggle with, and really difficult to fully overcome and let go. Even when you've made progress, it still seems to linger on, like a tiny part of it is always somewhat there. So I'd love to hear what you think about that, and also strategies that you might have used for yourself to
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's the tricky part here, because we need to understand that any kind of fear we carry within, and fear of people's opinions is widely researched, but it's definitely not a clinical disease, right? So therefore, like, PTSD, social anxiety, whatever it is, what is a clinical disease, FOPO, it's just widely researched. We know it exists.
Yeah.
And it's not a disease. However, it is very limiting, and we have to look at it like it's primal. We have to look at it like it's something, any kind of fear we got, from far back. This is our brain that protects us whenever there is danger. So if we now think about it, back in the days, like Stone Age and far back, where we were still nomads, dependent on our tribe, where you alone would not survive a night, because you would get eaten by the animals. We needed a tribe for general protection. We needed the people who know how to make fire, how to hunt, how to cook, to protect the newborn, to feed them, to heal, that was something we were so dependent on survival. However, today, as we are now looking at, that almost everyone, I would like to say, can sustain themselves. We don't need the tribe necessarily for survival. However, we have human needs, right? We know we need our community, we need that exchange. It's more of a mental thing, that we are now kind of codependent to our society and our environment. But it's not for survival anymore, right? It's just, we need to know that fear will always stay with us, and we can't change, we can't eliminate, it can't go away. This is why it always lingers and comes, and what it creates is just big discomfort in our bodies.
That's a really interesting
point. Excuse me?
So that's a really interesting point and perspective from that angle.
Yeah. So, and the more we sit in this fear, the more it gets bigger. You probably all know this. Listen, you go you carry something in your head, something that is uncomfortable, and you don't dare to speak it out, but then you decide to go to your best friend anyway, and you will just blurb it out, right? You share. No expectations, because there's no solution to it. What happens, there's instant relief. And we indeed to regulate the fear, we need that relief. And that relief we can gather in so many tools. I mean, hypnotherapy is one that regulates our nervous system. There are a zillion of other tools, but we need to understand, and we will get better at this. Like eventually, by practicing those tools more often, incorporating them, not fearing to sit with the discomfort in first place, will allow us eventually to step into our full potential very quickly. Because those tools, we get better at tools, and the better get it in tools, the better you get at everything. Because oh my God, fear is creeping in. What are they going to think of me if I'm going to wear this clothes now? What are they going to think of me if I have a certain skin condition, right? Because sometimes we even obsess about pimples. We obsess and we are feeling uncomfortable going into to our office because of that. So now pimples are something that we can easily cover up, perhaps eliminate them, whatever. But for example, like in your case, you're working with people with skin conditions that are long-term, if not permanent, visible, right? And this is something we can't change immediately. However, giving away the power to those thoughts, what people might think of us, is literally making up your self-worth on not from who you are, but how you look. And this is, again, something that comes from culture, from our upbringing, society's imposed structures, how we're supposed to look, right? Even if the understanding is here that skin conditions literally it's an illness that you cannot cure immediately, get rid of, no matter how much you want, but yet it's something that matters, right? Because it's a look, especially women, right? We should look in a certain way. So all these things is to get rid of this, not to get rid of it. I'm here need to correct myself because we can't get rid of it, but to get rid of the feeling and this internal discomfort is turning inward, not give away the power to the outside.
So,
yeah. And this is something we can practice. We can learn that. It's within us.
I agree. I'm so glad you mentioned that because sometimes it is something that having the condition, if it's a skin condition, it may not ever go away completely, but what you do have control over is a way that you respond to it and what you give your power to, as you mentioned. We can choose where we put our power and our energy into, and it can change over time. Just because it is a certain way for a period of time doesn't mean you're going to be stuck in that mindset forever. And I am an example of that because I also had very low self-esteem and insecurities. So on top of that, dealing with a skin condition just highlighted and emphasized that so much. But I've reached a stage now where my confidence and self-esteem is so strong that other people's opinion, I'm not going to put if they're negative, I'm not going to put my energy towards it because I'm dealing with this. It's my thing. And it's, when you were talking earlier, something else came to my mind as a quote that I heard from my counseling course, actually. And it said, other people's opinions are not your business. And I think I might have mentioned that somewhere before. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
They are not. You can't make them your business because it's limiting, right? It's, we are through having that fear, we will be avoiding situations. We will be, avoiding meetings, encounters that might change our lives, right? We are limiting our experiences so badly that we don't know what could be on the other side. What would be if I would go to this gathering? What would be if I would stop isolating myself and just put myself as a person out there? Because you as a person, you are not your condition, not your skin condition, you're not your pimple, you're not your weight, you are not your skin color, you are not all of these things. You as a human being you are so much more. And if we limit this to the fear of people's opinions that are either made up, I bet all these conversations we have in our head that never take place, right? Or even because of past experiences, we know that someone said something mean intentionally or wanted to hurt us or doesn't know better and therefore hurts us. Like this is something that is not constructive criticism where we can't work with. How can we ever, let our life be decided by that? Why are we taking this so in as it would be like, it's a given and no one speaks about it. Everybody has it, right?
Exactly. And you're absolutely spot on when you said we have all these thoughts in our minds sometimes and we go over and over, but in reality, we don't really know what the outcome will be. And most of the time, those situations don't happen. But we also tend to be more critical and harsh towards ourselves, even when we are, experiencing warmth and support from other people. We still have that inner critic sometimes.
Absolutely. We all have that. And that's normally I would say if we allow that critic space, this noise, to listen to it and just, often when we have that, we'll be like, okay, I shouldn't be thinking like this. I shouldn't be doing this, positive vibes only. And then you'd be like, instead of just sitting down and listening where this comes from, we try to ignore it. And I think creating this space for awareness and letting it in a little bit, even if it's painful, because it's not nice, right? Because it is like, we will be like, okay, geez, this is my reality right now. And this is something you need to learn to sit with. And when we sit with it, let's detach for once and not make it about us, right? Because this noise you hear and the voice in your head is often not yours. There is someone else speaking out of you. Perhaps you've been discouraged in the past. As children are mean, right? Children in the kindergarten, in school, children are mean unconsciously, and depends on what we heard from them, whether we got bullied. Perhaps, someone was just mean for no reason, and we didn't have the tool to deal with that at that time. So although we know we are now an adult and it doesn't really matter anymore, that self-esteem might have gotten a little scratched there back in the days. And whenever someone says something about you that could be potentially hurting your ego, right?
Yeah.
So this is perhaps the child that is hurt. This is perhaps, your colleague back in school telling you this. And then we can just literally be honest to ourselves and ask, like, does it even matter? Is this my reality right now?
Yeah.
But this only works if we don't push it away. Because if we push that fear or those thoughts, that critic away, we create overwhelm. We make it bigger, right? I don't know how much space there is in our head because the brain takes up quite a bit, but every space available, we will fill that up and we will create it. We will make it huge, right?
This is it. And you're right, all the comments that we hear from childhood, they build up over time. And the more that becomes reinforced from other people over time, it just increases. And sometimes we really have to dig deep to get to the root of where they stemmed from and why we have these beliefs, why we feel a certain way, because it does stem from somewhere. It's about addressing it and then processing it and then doing something to reframe that for yourself so that you're not getting stuck with those beliefs for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And I want to go here a little step further as well. Like, if we hear something mean, obviously we will fear that in the future because rejection is not comfortable, right? Being judged is not comfortable. However, we know that this is usually just someone who, for whatever reason, people do that, right? It often doesn't have something to do with us. And if we know that, and if we can some sort of step back and be like, okay, I hear you, it's okay, you are forgiven. And this is resilience that you can build over the time, but by now, if someone does that to me, I'll be like, okay, I reflect on this. I'll be like, did I really do harm to someone? If so, I apologize. If I'm not sure, I would ask. If not, I am okay with leaving it, right? I don't give my power nor my energy away to this. But then there are some phrases that we hear over our lifetime. Like, if you would share that you're going to go for something crazy, travel the world, build a business, leave your job, or go to hypnotherapy because there was so much judgment around it because perhaps you want to get rid of the skin condition because you realize that your mental state manifested in your body, like it is often with eczema and certain, stomach issues, whatever we all have, right? And then instead of being encouraged, you would hear, okay, I would never do that. This is now in first place. You hear it and be like, okay, cool, you would never do that, fine. But what it does to you, it makes you feel silly. Because translated for our brain, this means you're crazy. If my friend would do that, am I crazy to do that? If no one in my family does it, what's wrong with me that I want to go this path? So there are some hidden phrases we hear over our lifetime. Like, if you have you been a rebel when you were young? Mehak?
Yeah. I have.
Yeah.
When
Did
I
you ever?
Yeah, 16, 17, that's when I went to my rebel stage.
We all do, hopefully. And then you hear, what happened to my good girl?
Yeah.
And you are left with this thought. It's probably just what people mean is to say, is my child on the right path? because it's the right of a parent to worry about that. Yeah. But putting that in your face like this will be like, okay, what's wrong with me? They are worried. Perhaps I should be doing X, Y, Z. That's tough. And we take it so personal. We take it like, as it would be, we attach our self-worth to it. And as a result, we play small.
Yeah. And we hear so much of that. And sometimes it's harmless comments as well, but it really sticks with us. And it's so hard to not want that approval and validation from people sometimes, because I was going to ask you this as well, but it's such a normal human trait to feel like you belong. So is it possible to not care about other people's opinions or fully let go of that need?
Well, as I mentioned in the beginning, we need each other.
Yeah.
We need society. We are meant to live together. Like nobody is really meant to be alone, right? Some people need more alone time, right? There are different stages, but yes and no, I would say. It was the neuroscientist, Dr. Mark Leary, I believe, who did loads of research on rejection, right? And the fear of rejection. So now knowing that we always like to say, I'm not confident and I cannot go there, I'm not confident. That's a total crap because confidence is a fluctuating factor.
Yeah.
Confidence is never the same. So if you are not confident today, you might be confident tomorrow. But that doesn't have to do nothing with whether you can or cannot go to a meeting, right? So it's more about the fact that we attached confidence to a monitoring mechanism of the quality of our relationships. This is what he discovered. So if your self-esteem is usually somewhere here, super neutral, and you get a compliment, like, Mehak, oh my God, your hair today is so amazing. Like, you're looking so good. Your self-esteem will rise, whether you want it or not, right? You'll be like, oh my God, thank you. I watched it, right? I feel so proud of this. And you appreciate that. Now, if you get a comment and someone will be like, you know what you said yesterday really hurt me. This is constructive criticism. However, it lowers our self-esteem, but it allows us space for reflect in an ideal case, right? Reflection, we pause, we reflect, and we react depending on the value of the relationship, right? And we get then some comments back, and with that our self-esteem rises again, right? In the normal world it works like that: we first react, then pause, reflect, and react again, because it's very emotional, right? So it never works like that, right? But it is constructive criticism. We can work with that, and that's okay. This is human interactions. That's a mechanism that works since forever like this. But the toxic trait here is, as I said before, giving away the power to non-constructive criticism, where someone consciously or unconsciously would like to hurt us. Where if you hear, for example, if you've been bragging that you've been, I don't know, you got promoted, or you go to speak on the stage, you got an invitation, right? Or you, I don't know, you just perhaps managed to, you want to share that you've been out on an event with your skin condition, and for the first time of your life, you didn't put on a blazer. And it would be, you want to share with that. And you get back, yeah, Greg, who do you think you are to tell this, like, that's proud? What do you answer to that? This is not constructive. We cannot answer nothing to that. What do I think I am? Like, I don't know, be more precise. You know, my origin, my profession, my gender. What do you want to know, right? And this is not constructive criticism. This is the one thing. And the other thing is to the thoughts we have that people might think that we don't know, and fear of the unknown. This is the toxic trait of it. Yeah. So yes, we need that, but our relationships are determined on a two-way street. Our relationships need to allow us conversations, need to allow us improvement. If I screw up, I want to know that so I can improve our relationship, right? But all the other stuff, we don't need that. Yeah. We are not dependent on that. And this is where we can separate. We can let go of that. These are people who probably will never be happy with us, no matter what we do. Or will never be really satisfied with whatever we say, and then we end up pleasing them and trying to, belong there. But why we just don't go to the place where we are wanted? Why we don't go to those safe places where we are honored? Why don't we connect with people who really like us and let go of the rest, because we are not everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
We don't need it anymore.
Thank you so much for that answer. That was so interesting to have that perspective, because I never really thought of it that way, that in some ways, yes, we do need it. And it depends on the approach and what the value is in that opinion or feedback. Because like you said, sometimes we do need constructive feedback or opinions, and we do tend to ask other people for it as well. And it can be really valuable for us. And that's partly what helps us grow as people. But I think when it's something that is just so silly, like commenting on appearance, or the example that you provided, what value does that do? What does that really matter? But I think that's when, like you said, we can separate it and say, okay, that's just a useless piece of advice. I don't want anything to do with that. I'm going to remove myself from it. And we do
I'm going to remove myself from there indeed, yeah.
and stay away from that sort of energy, because it doesn't do anything helpful for us. But I think it's also about getting to a place where you are able to do that, because instantly, if you're someone who struggles with self-esteem, or you're insecure, or you've got these limiting beliefs, if you hear something like that, it's very hard to not get attached to that one comment. Particularly when I was thinking about with eczema, if someone made a critical comment about that, immediately we'll be defensive and we'll feel really insecure and sensitive about it, because it's something that's very personal.
We crumble, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to also acknowledge that eczema is a skin condition, which is not a pimple, because on top of that, it hurts and it creates physical discomfort, and that discomfort, the mental discomfort, comes on top. So this is something already that empties our energy bucket, right? Quite a bit. And then comes the rest, which is a comment where you'll be like, so what? And this is the final leak in our energy bucket, indeed.
Yeah. Wow. That's a really interesting point, and it's got me thinking about so much with that, because over time I've seen how I have relied on other people's opinions, but sometimes there's so much energy coming from that it can be overwhelming, and we need to get to a place where we're comfortable with deciding for ourselves and having that self-assurance. And like you mentioned, of course, with a skin condition is different, because it's painful, there's so much physical discomfort there, and on top of that, having to hear people's opinions, it's just that added layer of struggle,
of pain, of literally mental pain, and they are hurt and they are hurting. And as you said, we then sit in and crumble. And it is also something that we also need to understand. It's not all about nothing about us. Sometimes the reason why people say things and the reason why we feel about the things people said can be really inherited, I would like to say, from back in the days, from culture, right? Different generations react differently to different things, different situations. So we need to accept that too, and learn and be like, okay, it's not all about me. Maybe we reflected back into it. Why is this person really, for real now, reacting like this? If you don't do any harm to anyone, but there must be a different reason to that. And this is something we shouldn't be judging. This is something we can truly say, okay, I accept you the way you are. Yeah. This is where we gain our freedom back, where we gain our power back. Right?
Completely agree. And I've learned to embrace that approach, because immediately back in the day when I was younger and wasn't in this career, I'd get defensive and I'd find it very upsetting. But now what I encourage other people to do, as well as myself, is put yourself in their shoes and understand, or try to question what they're going through that's made them respond that way, or what pain do they have that's making them so angry and resentful and bitter. Yeah. I've just seen a comment there saying, need to gain my power back. Yes, and you absolutely can. I don't just say it, but there are ways that you can reach that. And over time, it will just become easier and easier. And as we spoke about earlier, it's about what you choose to give your power to, and making yourself a number one priority, treating yourself as if you're the most valued treasure on earth, and forgetting about the rest of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I will be hosting shortly in a couple of weeks a workshop around that, to let go of the fear of people's opinions and to build the business and life you desire. And this speaks to any person who experiences any kind of limits in their lives. If the first thought is what they gonna think about. Yeah. And I would love to invite you guys to join me. I would love to you sit there perhaps to literally to learn about what is really behind this thought, because education is a very valid, it's a very valuable, not valid, valuable thing, because the more we know, the better we can react, the better we experience our environment, the better we can be less judgmental but more intuitive, the better we can just be present and we want to be in our space. And I think, I don't know, Meg, if you agree, because you have a story that will come up soon, by the way, on my podcast. I've been listening to our conversation. It has been exquisite. It's a very valuable talk there. You've been through this too. And I like always to say the highest level of freedom you reach when you let go of your people's opinions. You agree?
100%. Absolutely, 100%. And I love that. And it's so liberating because with my story, and especially where I am now, I feel free, and I feel like that old baggage that was like so heavy has just been released, and I feel like I can be myself, and I feel like I can add so much value, do so much more, and ultimately be happier in life, do what feels fulfilling and right for me. So that workshop sounds really valuable, and I'm sure it's going to be beneficial to a lot of people, because this is something that needs to be addressed. And you're spot on again with what you said about knowledge. Knowledge is power, and when you start to gain an awareness and understanding of what these beliefs are, where it's coming from, what's causing you to have this fear, you can then really target specifically what you need to change and what needs to be different, and how you can take steps towards doing that.
Absolutely. You are so on point. And with that, you can develop tools, and I will be teaching them. This will be not just educational, but it will be fun. It will be super practical, and it will be 100% transformative. Like, I don't do half things. Like, what I love is to pour into people. And when I do that, I'll give it all.
Oh, amazing. So they've got nothing to lose from that. And it sounds really beneficial. If this particularly resonates with anyone watching, or even on the replay, if it does, leave a comment below as well with the hashtag replay. I'd love to hear if this resonates, because I think we touched on some really important topics here, but also been able to hear from a different perspective of what you shared. So thank you for that.
I so value your space. You allowed me here to be here today with you to share this conversation and to exchange the knowledge and wisdom and bring this out to the world. You're a diamond.
No, it's been a pleasure, and it's always fun to chat with you. I'm looking forward to hearing about the podcast as well when that's published. And thank you for showing a different perspective, because I don't think I've spoken about what you've brought up today, or never looked at it from that angle, especially when we talked about how things have changed over time and what the difference is, and it not being for survival anymore. That was really interesting. But also how to separate the helpful and unhelpful comments, because sometimes we do need the helpful, as we discussed.
Yeah, we need them. Otherwise, we cannot improve. And everybody who is on the self-development journey, we gotta improve if we want to, keep up our relationships. It's just you, and that's okay.
I have another question for you, actually, before we bring this to a close. What happens if we continue to avoid the work that we need to do on ourselves to overcome the fear of people's opinions?
Avoidance can be a long process. It can be a long, painful process, right? There are these pushing through quotes, feel the fear and do it anyway. They really misguide sometimes, because what that means is feel the fear, so be anxious, feel in discomfort, and push and push and go, right? This is neglection. You neglect that fear. What happens, and this is again on different levels, with some people sooner, with some people later, with some people never, but these are usually people who have tools to compensate differently for it. And that can be either healthy tools like hypnotherapy, breath work, or it goes into addiction, alcohol, right? Compensation can go either way. But what happens then? We create overwhelm. Overwhelm creates more of what already is. Of what more already is creates more anxiety, more stress. And the end result usually is, no matter how big our dream is, no matter how big a desire is to experience something, no matter how much we want it, we drop it. I've seen dreams being put on a shelf. The most ambitious people on this planet, the most skilled people, no matter their mindset, it's like the skill set, the mindset, your knowledge never existed when you fear people's opinions, right? And when you try to push through that, you push, push. It's pretend, neglection. You will never be stepping into your full potential and your authenticity. It's impossible because you're so occupied with everything around you. It's constant, your nervous system goes left, right, back and forth. Sleepless nights. You attach your thoughts. It's all about that one topic all the time. And this is stressful. And it leads eventually to giving up. Yeah.
Absolutely, because we put ourselves off, and procrastination comes into it as well when it comes with avoidance. And
it's a part of it.
Yeah. But then you're holding yourself back from living the life that you desire and from being you. And that is our birthright. That is something that should just be a given to us, that we have to take some sort of action to chase. And it resonated with me because I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but I almost didn't sign up for my hypnotherapy training because of the fear that I wasn't going to make it, or that I'm not going to be good enough, or is this really for me? Is it going to be a waste? And I had all these fears coming through, but it was also the thought of having to do something so different to what I've done before and putting myself out there, because I knew it would be me being self-employed and starting up my own business, which was terrifying. But it's about understanding what you really want. So with what you mentioned about feeling the fear and doing it anyway, I completely agree that that causes anxiety. And I think it needs to come from a place of it being aligned for you, feeling right for you, and taking baby steps to get there.
The baby steps that are crucial. Like there are lots of techniques where you can expose yourself to certain stimuli, right? That are very harmless. That can be even in a different area in life than you actually fear, and it will benefit you in the other area of life, right? It can be the most easiest thing ever. I'm teaching that posture. I'm teaching that too. And with that, we also need to create a little bit of awareness. It's like, how does that feel? And then this ugly feeling of discomfort and fear and perhaps anxiety, whatever it is, that can be in your throat, in your chest, in your stomach, neck, back. Some people do not see, like they have a little blurry vision, and this occurs, but we have tools ready that with a little bit of practice immediately bring us back, not to the outside, what is, but what is within us. And this
I love that.
is a much more beautiful way, I think, that is traumatizing, feel the fear and do it anyway approach, because it doesn't work for everyone.
No.
It didn't work for me.
Like you said, it just triggers the anxiety, and it's got to come from a place where you feel ready for it, so you're not trying too hard, because then you could be setting yourself up for disappointment or failure, and that's going to have the adverse effect that you don't want.
Exactly. And it can be as well as, like you give up, you start over, but every time you teach yourself that you can't, and you are feeling more of a fool than ever before, and this can be avoided with beautiful work.
Yeah.
Life can be easy. At least the things we can control, we can make them easy. Everything around that we can't control, we need to let go anyways.
Let it go. And that's something I constantly repeat, especially the work I do. Feel it, allow yourself to feel it, and let it go.
Yeah, feel it and let it go. Exactly.
Thank you so much for that. I will leave the details for your free workshop somewhere on this live. And to those of you who have stayed throughout all of this, thank you so much for watching. And I hope that has been helpful for you. You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening here and for leaving those comments. I have read them all. We'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful weekend, I would say. Enjoy.
Thank you very much. I will do, and you as well. Thank you for this. It's always a pleasure to chat and get into some really juicy topics.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that soon again on another topic, guys. Stay tuned. I appreciate you, man.
No problem. I'm sure we're going to have loads to talk about and discuss. I didn't even realize the time. I'm like, how has 45 minutes gone already?
Just like that. Time flies when you're having fun, however.
This is very true. Well, I hope you also have a great weekend. Thank you to everyone for watching, and we'll be in touch soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Talk soon. Bye.